This is going to be a special address by our guest of honor for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves as I call upon stage Mr. Abhijeet, Director, Authentication, UIDAI. Abhijeet ji ke liye zor se taali, please, as I welcome sir over here on stage. Thank you so much, sir. Honor and privilege. And I've heard that you have come all the way from Delhi for us, so unke liye aur zor se please tali for just this fact. And you're mic'd up, sir, or you need a mic? Okay, super. Over to you.
Audible? The Bharat Network Group in general, and then the tech disruptors, Mr. Anupam and his entire team, for giving me an opportunity to experience a wonderful series of sessions all about financial ecosystem and the AI technologies which are there on the platter to be leveraged in terms of efficiencies and in terms of compliances and also in terms of certain fraud risk management. So in terms of AI, I would like to tell you that current times are typically a tipping point. It depends on us how we go forward, because primarily out of three things. What are those three? First of all, AI has been democratized. And when I say democratized, it's not a very positive term. Democratized means it's available for everybody. It's not available only for good things, but also for not so good things. Every technology has to have certain good parts and certain not so good parts. So advanced AI is now accessible and available to rogue elements, which we typically can call a cyber criminal or everybody else. So it's us that good people and better technologies get faster and ahead of those things in curve. The second most important thing is ransomware as a service. A lot of people doesn't nowadays understand ransomware as a service, but probably all of our institutions, whether have been not hit by any other cybercrime, but definitely by a ransomware at some point of time of another. And now this ransomware is also used with certain amount of AI, and it is delivered. There are technology teams who prepare it and sell it to the others who use it as a service. So now the barriers are much lower for not so good actors. Superior technologies are easily available and easily available at much lower costs. So DeepSeek has done a lot of favor to not so great people. The third most important point is probably the attack surface which is available to them. Now with much higher IT implementation and also much higher amount of AI implementation, the whole area of which is available for attack has increased. So we need to be much more vigilant, much more smart in how we see our risks. Probably tomorrow what was not a risk can become a risk today, or at least in the near future. We have to be very vigilant on those parts. I come back to a very fascinating, which gives me a lot of motivation, is UPI. Now, UPI is a great case study. And this case study is fantastic even beyond the financial envelope which we see. Now, what UPI has given us in terms of a behavioral thing is that what we think, lot of great experts think, might be proved wrong if the service is great. Now, when the UPI was rolled out, it was a meeting and said that how many of the people say a bank like HDFC or SBI or PNB, how many of the customers would like to go to a third-party touch point to do their transaction rather than their own branch? And I was told by a very senior person at NPCI who has worked with the bank that of 100 plus crowd, nobody said would be ready to go to a third-party touch point. Now think of an online. Whether they should agree? Absolutely no. But now what has happened? At least 90-95% of these touch points are third-party. What we think today, with lot of conviction by experts, would go wrong only thing is that the technology and the implementation has to be great. Second part, customer experience has to be great without any major risk to them. So if two things are main, what we think today with our experience doesn't matter. Technology and user experience are great. It will click beyond what we think. Uh, we have also talked little bit about cooperative banks. Now, what happens when we speak last? I can't speak my agenda. So, I thought, I'll during the day I'll sit and I'll see. So, cooperative banks are very important cog in the entire system. In terms of value of the transaction, it might not look very large number, but in terms of number of people they serve, and in terms of the number of last mile people they serve, underprivileged, unbanked, unfinancial service people, they do it. Government in general, regulators in specific, have been very sensitive to that, and UIDAI is one. Now, UIDAI is primarily to the financial ecosystem, is an eKYC service provider and authentication service provider. When we say authentication service provider, predominantly APS, UPI onboarding, those things are there. For a lot of small cooperative banks, the initial onboarding cost as well as the compliance cost in terms of Aadhaar data vault and HSM has been huge. We had been talking about it from last 1.5 years, and over one VC with one of the bigger state banks, one idea clicked to me, and now what is that we have reduced for the all small banks. You know that the government has said that one state, one rural bank, RRB concept. We have also came recently in this month with one state, one banking, one cooperative bank license. So there is no upfront cost, there is no audit requirement, there is no compliance in terms of it. So if the state cooperative bank want to onboard them, they can internally onboard without any additional cost. We are not going to charge them any license fee. We are not going to ask them for this thing. Only our requirement is that the infrastructure and the implementation remains one. So currently, all the district cooperative banks have come on board with the states, most of where, but we are not going to restrict. If there are certain cooperative banks who don't want to compete and cooperate in between themselves, they can come as one, and we would be happy to announce for them also. So that's precisely for cooperative banks, and this will hold good for both eKYC solution and as well as APS. And when I say APS means you would have from NPCI also, because APS is an ecosystem which is run mutually by NPCI as well as Aadhaar, UIDAI. That's it. And coming to DPDP Act, a lot of people have talked about it, and I'm sort of representing UIDAI, which is a major organization in the Ministry of Electronics and IT Government of India. So DPDP Act is a different, it's not what we think also. Now, DPDP Act was passed in 2023. Draft rules were notified sometime back in 2025 and still not implemented. Now, why? The basic fact on this is not what RTI, certain media reports that it is in conflict with RTI and all those things and what political parties are going on. It's about on one part. Who owns the data? If I am a business, or I am an NBFC, or a financial entity, or a bank, what we think? It's my customer data and it's my data. What the DPDP Act says, get into the basics. It classifies defines two very important terms, which is data principles and data fiduciary. And who owns the data? Data principle, what it does say that data principle has right, in bold and underlined right, to control their data. And what are data fiduciaries? They have obligations, in quotes, to protect it. And what it very clearly says, the data doesn't belong to the banks, The data belongs to the individual like you and me, and the bank only has the obligation to protect it. Matlab, any financial entity or who does it for that. The other two very important things, because this is not on DPDP, but since I am from that ambit and I would like to say, is the consent to withdraw. How many of us have implemented the consent to withdraw? I don't know any major entity who has implemented it. And consent to withdraw is going to be a challenge. Now, with consent to withdraw, the another challenging part is data principles right to deletion of data. Means if a data principal like you, me, I want that my data need to be deleted after that, I can just write to a regulator like RBI and it's RBI's done, their regulated entity deletes it. Again, two questions. Whether this right to deletion is only for the primary data which is stored, like my customer profile, probably what transactions I have done. And if I say delete it, what happens to the credit bureau ratings for me? I can ask very specifically not so great things to be deleted and great things to be done. What happens to CIBIL and all those scores? Now, that's precisely primary of all my loan processing, at least at retail level. What happens to that? Second part, whether it also implies to the implied data. Implied data means you make your things like my all out of the customer, all of the customer, my NPA probably for this segment, this geolocation would be 2% will go NPA. Whether that should also come down from 2% to 1.99% implied data. DPDP Act as of now doesn't let you do that. You go to any judicial, the court will certainly win, because the courts have the power to interpret. Most probably or not, that would be interpreted into that also. Now what that means, all your data goes, all your language models which you have trained over years, just because of few transactions, you have to drop it off. Because LLM doesn't leave you said that ye transaction ko delete kar do. So it's going to be huge challenge. Second, one thing in terms of eKYC. Now, entire of the fraud is not that where it happens, where it doesn't happen. In particular, this segment of loan happens. The core of the fraud is the impersonation of the people, not so right people. So once you do an eKYC, the problem precisely with the eKYC now is that, and even with the regulators like us, that we say that you do at an onboarding, and do a risk-based approach. You do this for annually, this for 2 years, this for 5 years, and probably Jan Dhan account types of 10 years. But see, the eKYC risk is a continuous process. A person who can go rogue or an entity who can go rogue at any point of time, not in after 2 years only or after 5 years. So that's precisely you need to come with something which is going wrong to come. We have also get into it, thought of what to do. And UIDAI being very consent type of thing, because consent in terms of governance has come first of all into it, and partly because of certain Supreme Court judgment, precisely one Supreme Court judgment which is famously called Justice Puttaswamy. And not because Justice Puttaswamy delivered it, because the Justice Puttaswamy actually challenged the in the Supreme Court. So the consent, the primarily eKYC says that you can't have any customer data or any resident data, which we call Aadhaar number holder, to you without a consent. But we have come with a regulation which we internally call, the regulation called is 93A. Now, anybody who is registered as a requesting entity with us, probably if we deactivate an Aadhaar number out of something which we have found not right, or he has expired anything, now we would be sharing on real-time basis. When we say real-time basis means on everyday basis. You can ping a daily basis. So if I have come to know that I have found something fault with him and I have deactivated his Aadhaar, I would share his Aadhaar with you. And this service initially was thought at a cost, because authentication at a cost. But now we have said that if you do a mutual sharing, matlab you also have, because you also are a customer and account has been closed. Even if you say you give 10 records to me and I give you lakh records to you, the service remains free. So if you have done a eKYC with us, and if number changes out of anything, we probably will share you. And once probably a consent management framework of DPDP Act has come, and if there is a third-party consent manager, we can even devise that if address changes, phone number changes. So we can share it. But that need DPDP rules to come, because as of now, where you only maintains the consent, it becomes very difficult for me. Fine. So those are the few things. Just for an update, as of now, what the eKYC gives you is photo, name, age, address, and you get masked phone number and Aadhaar number. We are coming up with very frequently a service where you can get and both email ID and phone number, which is unmasked, and we have got around 97% now penetration in terms of phone numbers. So that was an update. With this, I would like to close. Thanks everybody who has had patience of listening me so deep into night, if I can say. And again, so thank you. I took 15 minutes. Thanks a lot, everybody. And thanks, Anupam, calling me.
Thank you, sir. I'll request you to please kindly wait over here on stage, and I'll request Dr. Anupam Gupta to please kindly come up on stage and give the token of appreciation to Abhijeet, sir, over here. Thank you so much, sir, once again, from flying all the way from Delhi to be with us over here. Give him a big round of applause, please, everybody over here. Yes. Thank you so much.